Hello, and welcome to the Folklore and Fiction Podcast. My name is Kelly MacCath-Moran. I'm a PhD candidate in the Folklore Department at Memorial University of Newfoundland, and I'm also a speculative fiction writer under the pseudonym C.S. MacCath. The Folklore and Fiction Podcast and Dispatch synthesize these passions with a focus on folklore scholarship aimed at storytellers. You'll find the Folklore and Fiction archive, along with the rest of my work, online at folkloreandfiction.com. Interested listeners will find a link to the current dispatch in the show notes, where a more comprehensive record of this episode can be found, including a bibliography and other references. At the summer and winter solstices, I mimic the sun and pause to reflect on my own creative work. In this episode, I'm discussing my theatrical adaptation of a little-known tale of magic titled The Belt and the Necklace, forthcoming as part of the Odyssey Theater's Other Path podcast series. The play is still in production, but I do have an excerpt to share with you a little later in this podcast. For now, let's have a look at the original story. Here it is. The Belt and the Necklace. There once was a king with a daughter named Barbara. She was so ugly that everyone made fun of her. She lived a lonely life. One day, she was up in her room feeling sad about her luck. Suddenly, a gnome appeared before her and gave her 3 plums. He said to her, "March straight down to the sea and throw one of the plums into it. 2 mermaids will rise up out of the water, bright as the sun. Throw the second plum into the sea, and one of the 2 mermaids will come on land. She will be wearing a magical belt, and you should take it off her. When you throw the 3rd plum into the water, the other mermaid will come on land. She will be wearing a necklace that can be yours as well. As soon as you put on the belt and the necklace, you will become the most beautiful woman of all, as dazzling as the sun. If you wear the necklace as a belt, and vice versa, you will become invisible. Make sure you don't take off the belt and necklace, and above all else, don't lose them. But come what may, I will still be there to help you." The princess did as she was told. She went over to the sea and threw a plum into the water. 2 mermaids emerged from below. They were so dazzlingly beautiful that it hurt her eyes. She threw the 2nd plum into the water, and one of the 2 women came out of the water and gave her the belt she was wearing. It would turn her into a queen. But she set one condition. Barbara would have to turn over her 3rd child when it turned 3. Barbara threw the 3rd plum into the water. The 2nd mermaid came on land and gave her the necklace in exchange for the most beautiful of her children. Barbara put on the belt and necklace and was declared to be the most beautiful in the land. She became queen. Whenever she walked on the grounds, she was as radiant as the sun, and the gardens around her looked like paradise. Barbara gave birth to her 3rd child, and it was a little boy, just as beautiful as the first 2. When the boy turned 3, the nursemaid took a walk with him near the sea. Suddenly, one of the mermaids rose up from the water and grabbed the child. More children were born to the queen, and the 6th was a boy, the most beautiful of them all. The king loved him more than life itself. The queen put out an order that no one was to allow the child near the water. One evening, an old woman appeared, and she asked for shelter. A white veil hid her face. The stranger was given a place to sleep and stayed in the corner she had been given. When everyone was asleep, she took the boy and fled with him. The king's messengers were sent out to search for the boy, but they returned without any news. The queen had to confess how everything had come to pass. The king was furious and had the queen thrown into the water, into the very sea where she had acquired the belt and necklace. But the water could do nothing to her, and she did not even get damp. She sank down until she reached the splendid palace. This episode of the Folklore and Fiction podcast is a preview, and you can listen to the full episode on the Folklore and Fiction website. Just click on the dispatch link in the show notes or go to folkloreandfiction.com and sign up for a free account. Thanks very much for your interest. Copyright 2019 to 2023. Kelly S. MacCath-Moran. All rights reserved unless Creative Commons licensing is specifically applied.